They say the army trains you to anticipate every threat, but nothing prepares you for the enemy hiding inside your own childhood home. I spent months deployed in the harsh terrain of intense tactical training, pushing my mind and body to the absolute limit. I survived on minimal sleep, adrenaline, and the pure joy of knowing I would finally get to surprise my mother. But the moment I unlocked the front door, the warm homecoming I had envisioned shattered into pieces. There she stood, trembling in the kitchen, frantically trying to pull down her long sleeves. It was too late. I saw them. Fading shades of purple, yellow, and deep, painful blue tracking all the way up her arms. My mother had been trapped in a living nightmare for 2 long years, hiding a devastating secret from everyone. I didn't break down. I didn't scream. Instead, a cold military precision took over me. I looked her dead in the eye, smiled gently, and whispered, "Go rest at a hotel, Mom. Tomorrow, we play his game. By our rules." Follow my story until the end to see how a trained soldier executes the ultimate calculated justice, and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Charlotte. I am 28 years old, an active duty soldier, and someone who thought she knew exactly what bravery looked like. I had just spent months deployed in the grueling, unforgiving terrain of an advanced tactical training cycle, pushing my body to the breaking point. The only thing that kept me going through those sleepless nights was the thought of coming home to surprise my mother, Evelyn. I pictured her smiling, cooking in the kitchen, finally at peace after years of being alone. But the moment I unlocked the front door of our suburban home, that warm vision evaporated. The house felt suffocatingly quiet. I walked into the kitchen and caught her completely off guard. The second she saw my uniform, her face didn't light up with joy. It twisted into pure, raw panic. She gasped, instantly dropping a glass to the counter, and frantically tried to pull the long sleeves of her sweater down over her wrists. It was too late. I had already seen them. Tracking all the way up her arms and across her collarbone were horrifying, vivid marks. Fading shades of purple, yellow and deep, painful blue. My mother broke down right there, the tears cutting tracks through the exhaustion on her face. Between heavy, trembling sobs, the truth finally poured out of her. For 2 long years, her charismatic new husband, Richard, had been systematically isolating her, draining her savings, and using terrifying psychological threats to keep her silent while I was away. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to hunt Richard down right then and there. But the military teaches you one vital lesson above all else: never let rage dictate your tactics on the battlefield. I forced my breathing to slow down, letting a cold, absolute calm wash over me. I couldn't afford to let my mother see the fury burning inside me. I wiped the tears from her face, held her trembling hands firmly, and focused entirely on neutralizing her immediate panic. The first priority in any counteroffensive is securing the civilian assets. I didn't waste a single second. I quietly guided her upstairs, helped her pack a small suitcase with her essential belongings, and led her out to my car. I drove her to a secure, upscale hotel 2 towns over, checking her in under a completely false name. I paid in cash, kissed her forehead, and assured her she was safe now. With the perimeter secured, I turned my car around and headed back into the storm. Returning to the empty house, I locked the front door behind me. The silence was no longer heavy. It was tactical. I bypassed the living room and went straight into Richard's private home office. Methodically, room by room, drawer by drawer, I began combing through his life. Within an hour, I uncovered the hidden truth. Tucked away in a locked briefcase were fraudulent property deeds, secret bank statements, and forged documents proving he was legally bleeding my mother dry. The house grew darker as the sun set, but I didn't turn on a single light. I sat completely still at the dining room table, cloaked in the shadows, letting the darkness act as a psychological weight. In the military, you learn that waiting is a weapon. I wanted the environment to feel oppressive the moment Richard walked through the door. I placed my phone face down on the table, its microphone already actively recording, capturing every ambient sound in the room. I was fully prepared for the confrontation mindset. Around 9 o'clock, headlights cut through the front window, followed by the heavy sound of his key turning in the lock. Richard stepped inside, whistling a casual, arrogant tune, fully expecting to find a defeated, isolated wife waiting to bear the brunt of his cruelty. Instead, he flipped the wall switch, and his eyes landed on me. I sat there in my full active-duty uniform, posture rigid, staring directly into his soul with a stone-faced expression that immediately halted his whistle. For a second, surprise flickered in his eyes, but his practiced predatory arrogance quickly took over. He smiled smoothly, stepping into the room with a patronizing chuckle. "Well, look who decided to play soldier at home," he scoffed, trying to regain the psychological upper hand. I didn't yell. I didn't reveal the anger threatening to burst through my chest. Instead, I gave him a slow, cold smile, letting him believe he was still in control while his own voice recorded the trap. The next morning, I initiated the phase of the operation requiring deep legal and financial reconnaissance. I didn't reach out to local police just yet. I needed to build a case so bulletproof that no high-priced defense attorney could wiggle him out of it. I contacted a trusted military legal assistance officer from my base, a sharp captain who specialized in asset protection, and paired him with a brilliant private forensic accountant. Together, we sat in a quiet coffee shop, spreading out the documents I had extracted from Richard's home office the night before, mapping out every single one of his hidden vulnerabilities. By noon, the accountant had uncovered the structural rot beneath Richard's polished exterior. The investigation revealed that Richard wasn't a successful businessman at all. He was a serial opportunist running a massive, crumbling corporate fraud scheme. He had been systematically forging my mother's signature to use her pre-marital assets, the house, her retirement accounts, and her savings, as collateral for bad business loans to prop up his failing ventures. He was drowning, and he had planned to pull her down with him to save himself. Knowing this, I didn't panic. I used the information to design a counter-offensive strategy. My legal captain drafted a legally ironclad financial agreement, a literal poison pill wrapped in the guise of a standard estate and asset update. The paperwork was meticulously structured to look like a routine restructuring that would inject quick capital into his business, but hidden deep within the legal jargon was a clause that would force Richard to completely sign away his rights to Evelyn's wealth. I was setting the trap, framing it perfectly to exploit his desperate greed. At exactly 2 o'clock, I initiated the bait. I called Richard and demanded a high-stakes meeting at a formal downtown conference room, pretending I wanted to sort out the family assets peacefully without involving any outside authorities. He took the bait instantly, his insatiable greed blinding him to the danger. When the heavy glass doors opened, Richard walked in with his signature smug attitude, flanked by a predatory, expensive lawyer he had brought along to intimidate me into backing down. He honestly believed a 28-year-old soldier was out of her depth in a room full of suits. He sat down, adjusted his tie, and flashed a condescending smile. "Let's get this over with, Charlotte," he said smoothly, leaning back in his chair. I didn't say a word. Instead, I opened my folder and calmly began laying the trap directly onto the table. I slid the forensic accounting files, the hidden audio recordings of his threats, and absolute proof of his corporate embezzlement right in front of him. I watched the smugness instantly vanish from his face, replaced by a cold, paralyzing terror as his own lawyer leaned in, took one look at the evidence, and turned completely pale. The silence in the room was absolute as Richard stared at the evidence of his ruin. I leaned forward, delivering the ultimate choice with unwavering military precision. I pushed the final paperwork across the table, a total asset forfeiture and immediate unconditional divorce agreement. "You have exactly two options, Richard," I said, my voice cutting through the tension. "You can sign these papers right now, or you can leave this room in handcuffs to face immediate arrest for grand larceny, corporate fraud, and financial elder abuse. The choice is entirely yours." Desperate to avoid a lengthy prison sentence that would completely destroy his carefully manufactured reputation, Richard grabbed the pen. His hands shook violently as he scrambled to sign away his rights to every single dollar, property, and asset he had stolen from my mother. He let out a ragged breath, looking up at me with a pathetic, triumphant glint in his eye, believing he had outsmarted me one last time and was escaping the trap cleanly. I took the signed documents from his hands, verified the signatures, and let a slow smile spread across my face as I delivered the final, devastating twist. "You thought this civil settlement bought your freedom, Richard? It only protected my mother's assets." I leaned in closer, watching the realization hit him. I forwarded the federal fraud documentation to the authorities hours before this meeting began. Right on cue, the conference room doors swung open, and two police officers walked in to place him under arrest. 3 months later, the dust has finally settled. Richard is currently behind bars, facing a lengthy prison sentence for his financial crimes, while my mother is completely free, safe, and financially secure. The house is once again a sanctuary, stripped entirely of his toxic presence. Looking back, I realize that true strength isn't just about facing an enemy with raw fury. It's about executing a plan with patience, discipline, and absolute strategy. Seeing the genuine smile return to my mother's face makes every single tactical decision worth it. Now, I want to hear from all of you who have followed my journey until the very end. What would you have done if you found yourself standing in my boots? How far would you go to protect the people you love? Sound off in the comments below and let me know the city you are watching from. Don't forget to check out the 2 videos on the screen right now for more incredible storytelling, and make sure to subscribe so you never miss a mission. Thank you for watching.